I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Coming in hot from San Diego, California. I am here for my best friend's wedding, and I am so excited to explore a new city. I've never been to San Diego before, and I'm coming in hot from California. Yay. Anyway, I have a full day of news for you guys, so let's jump into it. And I wanted to apologize in advance for any sort of sound quirks. It's a little echoey in here, but other than that, I think we're doing pretty good. This isn't a normal sound day for us, so that's okay. Anywho, gas leaks in Denmark, technically off the coast of Denmark. Were they intentional? Let's dive in. Okay, so I have kind of put off telling you guys about this story for a little while now, hoping that we'd get a little more clarity on the subject before we dive into it. But it seems that things are at a bit of a standstill, so I thought we'd go ahead and discuss it, give you guys a lay of the land, and if more information comes to light, we'll talk about that then. What happened was a pair of huge natural gas pipelines called Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 randomly exploded off of the coast of Denmark in the Baltic Sea, right on the edge of NATO, but not in it. The pipeline runs from Russia to Germany, and this all comes at a time when Europe is really hurting for gas. What's weird about the pipelines, though, is that they exploded in this very dramatic, strange way that experts would say is exceedingly rare, and honestly has them kind of scratching their heads. They're still investigating the situation, but everyone's knee-jerk reaction was, this was Russia. As Putin is increasingly backed into a corner, it seems likely that he would lash out in some indirect kind of way. That is kind of his MO in the past, hiring hackers, poisoning British diplomats and buying American political ads. He likes to strike out in these kind of roundabout ways, and he won't directly confront NATO, but exploding an important gas line right off the coast of NATO, yeah, that sounds like him. But while everyone has been quick to declare sabotage, we don't have actual evidence of that yet at all. So far, it's been way too dangerous to even go near the pipeline explosion. So to be fair, we don't really have much evidence of any kind, but the nation of Denmark is looking into the explosion as it is set to really affect their nation the most because it's right off their coastline. If any additional information comes to light, we will be sure to let you guys know and keep you guys informed on it. So next, we are going to shift our focus to Hurricane Ian, which is obviously the story of the day. This is just a huge catastrophe, and we need to discuss some of the details. So they are now calling this hurricane, Hurricane Ian, a 500-year flood, meaning it's the worst in 500 years, according to Yahoo writers. NPR also determined that it was in the top 5 hurricanes for the state of Florida that they've ever seen. So pretty insane number there as well. Sharks were actually seen swimming down neighborhood streets. yachts were just drifting unmanned through pedestrian areas of harbors, and the shorelines are completely covered in debris. Cleanup from this storm will certainly take months, if not even years. President Biden formally issued a disaster declaration on Thursday, which will release federal funds to assist in rescue and cleanup efforts. There are sure to be many fatalities from this storm, but right now, no one is even attempting to speculate as to that number. So one thing that I kept hearing about as I was researching what's going on with the storm is the storm surge. So I was unfamiliar with that term, and I found out it's one of the deadliest functions of a hurricane. So I wanted to dive into what is a storm surge with you guys, and in this way we can kind of know for the future and be more informed on this topic, because hurricanes obviously are going to get even more frequent with climate change going on. So the storm surge, like I said, is the deadliest aspect of a hurricane, and it's actually where the ocean water rises above normal tidal levels, and here is how it works. So when the hurricane gets strong, they start to push water, the winds push water from the ocean towards the land. Then the water level rises, and these large waves kind of ride on top of that water level. These waves damage everything near the water. And this whole thing causes water to be pushed inland miles away from the storm itself. Storm surges also push water up rivers and tributaries to where anyone who's close to those waterways will also experience that extreme flooding in the waves and all of the symptoms of the storm or the surge. And this can be a way that experts kind of decide who to evacuate, like who is going to be affected by a storm surge in this scenario. They need to evacuate. They also measure the surge in feet, of course. So, for example, Hurricane Ian has surged as high as 12 or 13 feet already. There is also such thing as a reverse storm surge, and that is where the water gets pulled out from the beach, and that's actually what's happening along Florida's coastline right now. Areas that were usually covered by 12 feet of ocean water are now just left exposed. It's so bizarre. This is truly an unusual phenomenon, and officials have been warning people to stay back from these areas and not walk out into them, because although they are fascinating, they could be really dangerous. And again, they're pretty rare, or like we don't have a ton of examples about them, so we don't know how dangerous it could be to walk out into areas that usually have 12 feet of ocean water. I also wanted to, now that we've kind of covered storm surges and reverse storm surges, I wanted to go over some other things that have happened with this particular storm. So more than 2.5 million people are currently without power in the state of Florida. Naples and Fort Myers are the areas that are the hardest hit, and Governor Ron DeSantis said especially Fort Myers is just really, really devastated. You know, all kinds of things have been affected by this. You know, of course, people's boats are completely destroyed. Beach houses are destroyed. Bridges, though, like a ton of bridges have sort of broken. Highways, animals have been affected, of course. And there's a lot of need for animal rescue. Aid workers are currently going door to door as well to try and locate people and make sure that they're okay. The storm is actually set to move up the coast and regain strength as a hurricane and hit South Carolina today. So let's hope that everyone there will stay safe and really brace themselves for this beast of a storm. Stay tuned. And lastly for today, I wanted to touch on Biden on a new mission. So before we go for the day, let's talk about a major goal that President Biden has just set for himself and his administration. Biden plans to seek to end hunger in the United States by 2030. The plan does not have a ton of details yet, but it does seem to kind of rely on commitments from philanthropic organizations to reach that goal. They also want to widen other programs that already exist to kind of help with the hunger. So food stamps, raising minimum wage, SNAP, things like that. So as to grant access to food and healthy food for more Americans struggling to make ends meet. Biden said of the plan, quote, "In every country in the world, in every state in this country, no matter what else divides us, if a parent cannot feed a child, there's nothing else that matters." End quote. The idea of ending hunger by 2030 is an ambitious one, but noble nonetheless. Let's see if Biden can get us on track to hit it. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "Hear this, young men and women everywhere, and proclaim it far and wide. The earth is yours and the fullness thereof. Be kind, but be fierce. You are needed now more than ever before. Take up the mantle of change. This is your time." If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron of our podcast. For $7.99 a month, you can unlock tons of perks like breaking news text messages so that you're never out of the loop. Tons of bonus episodes are already up there ready for you to binge, and a discussion board full of networking opportunities and much more. Go to www.patreon.com/sugarfree media today to become a patron. This is the best way to support our show. Our patrons make News du Jour possible. But a couple other ways to support our podcast are rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen, share on your social media, you have influence, tell your friends, family, and colleagues that you love News du Jour and why you listen. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok, and sugarfree_media on Twitter. We also have a weekend newsletter called Dreamers Digest that's full of dreamy content recommendations for your weekend and a life update from yours truly. Sign up today on our website, www.sugarfreemedia.co. Our music is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. Any twinkling or little footsteps you might hear in the background are by my dog, Rhett. He's a rescue pup and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.